to executive session to approve Board of Selectmen executive session minutes of 11/3/15. At approximately 7 o'clock, we'll come out of executive session and start our regular agenda.
Make a motion, we go adjourn this meeting, go into executive session.
All
I'll
those,
second that.
all those in favor? John?
Yes.
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Yes. Welcome back. We're out of executive session, being a little past 7 o'clock. I'll read tonight's agenda. 7 o'clock, we'll have citizens' input. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of meeting. 7:05, Selectmen's update. 7:15, Foxborough Housing Authority, appointment of Thomas K. Kelly. 7:20, Randy Scollins, be a public hearing regarding the new classification. 7:50, Bar Louie, William Cochran Jr., change of manager. 8 o'clock, Roger Hill, DPW Director, discussion, vote, Fails Place and Gilmore Street signage. 8:10, Bill Keegan, stadium seating fees status report. 8:20, Bill Keegan, special town warrant review changes. 8:30, Bill Keegan, town manager update. And 8:40, Mary Beth Bernard, assistant town manager update. Before we do the pledge, just like to take a moment of silence out of respect for the victims from the cowardly acts last Friday in Paris. Thank you. Bill, would you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, after 7 o'clock, is anybody here for citizens' input? Okay. For the record, just please state your name.
Debbie Giardino, 151 Main Street. I am also the Recreation Director for the town of Foxborough. I'm here for two reasons. One, citizens' input, and two, I think I fall into that category of things that might not necessarily be expected. I had submitted a application for an event on the Common for a week from this Saturday, and I didn't get it in on time. And then it turned out that I might not have filled in the right application, so now you have, I hope before you, two applications, one for an event on the Common and one for a townwide event, parade type thing.
The public
The public event.
That's the one that we went with.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you have those in your packets, but they're all signed and ready to go with your signature and your say-so, and if anybody has any questions. It's our second annual Light Up the Town. We did it last year, and we had several hundred families, and it was very well received. It's kind of harking back to the old days when I was growing up in Foxborough, and the tree would be lighted, and the decorations would go out in front of the firehouse, and the firehouse was lit, and the fire station had all their ladders up. So last year we started it by lighting a tree. Then we collaborated with the library, and the kids and their families go to the library, make a decoration, and they bring it to the Common to hang on the tree, though we found out then that they can't hang them on the tree because the tree is too high. So now they bring them home with them. And every year we try to do something bigger and better. This year we still have the collaboration with the library, which I'm grateful to work with Manny, and he's grateful to work with us. We also are going to have singers, the choir from the Ahern School there, and the Elite Company, the Elite Dance Company will also be doing a short holiday dance for everybody's entertainment. Mr. and Mrs. Claus will be arriving via fire truck to everybody's
How are they? They good?
amazement. I haven't heard from them directly because, you know, they're very busy.
Yeah.
Very, very busy.
It'll be good to see them again. That's great.
It's going to be great to see them again. And then we will have a countdown and we'll light the tree. But it's a great collaborative. Foxborough Recreation is working with Manny at the library. Cable TV is a huge asset. The Foxborough Police Department and Foxborough Fire Department will be there to make sure that traffic flows and that Santa and Mr. and Mrs. Santa get to where they're going. So it's a great town collaborative. And then it ends about 6:15. It's a short event, really starts at 4 with the decorations and the tree being lit at 6. And the JCs are a huge part of this. We're collaborating with them as well. And then there will be a showing at the Orpheum Theater of 2 Christmas classics. And that will be run by the JC's portion of it. So it's a 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock family event on
What's the date again?
Saturday, November 28th.
Okay.
So it would be 4 o'clock for the decorations, 6 o'clock for the tree lighting?
Right, 4
And then the movie following,
Movie following that.
Yep.
Yeah.
at following 6 of,
Following the lighting of the tree, which is just about 6 o'clock. Everything is timed down to about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We've really got it timed very well, short of anything happening, which with recreation, it sometimes does.
Deb, is this going to be posted on the website?
It's not only posted on the website, but the flyers that you have, which were approved by Debbie Spinelli, have gone home to all the kids in the schools. I think they're up around town. It's on cable. It's everywhere and anywhere that we can put it. The library has it on their website. It's just a really feel-good event that Recreation and the JCs and all of the other collaborative people that we're working for look forward to. And from the attendance that we had last year, I can only imagine it's going to grow. We have hot chocolate and candy canes, and it's just, like I said, a feel-good family event that's free and open to everybody.
Great, sounds like fun.
Looks like a ton of different groups helping out, which is awesome.
It's unbelievable.
How are you, I mean, are you all right funding-wise, or are you getting?
They're actually,
to donate
the
or-
only funding that we had was, the only expenditure we had was buying the ornaments, and using the companies that we use, they're fairly inexpensive.
That's great.
We have the lights. Andy Felix will be donating his time once again this Saturday for the lights to go up, but they won't be turned on
Yeah.
until that night.
No.
And he's done it for the last couple of years, and we're very grateful to him. So it's him as well.
Yeah.
It's vendors giving their time, towns, businessmen giving their time, and then all of the other groups that I mentioned that we collaborate with. We couldn't do it without them.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Great, thank you. for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
I'm sorry with the late paperwork, but I don't think that anybody would object. Thank
Do we
you.
need to make a motion to
Need a
approve this?
motion to approve it, yes.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the collaborative event on Saturday, November 8th, Light Up the Town event.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you. There was a rumor, though, I did hear that Mr. Keegan may be reading The Night Before Christmas.
I heard that.
I heard that too.
Huh? You heard that? Actually, we have no room for that. We have no room this year. We'll make room next year.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay, a couple of things on Selectmen's update. On November 3rd, there was a joint meeting.
Actually, one other
Oh,
person,
oh,
I think. in the
somebody
back.
else have a
Citizens.
citizen? Sorry about that.
Janet Kennedy, Cocasset Street. My question is regarding the liquor license. Does the town have any available now? The wine and beer and the full one?
The answer is there are wine and beer licenses, but there are no full ones left.
Okay. Now, my question is, say, for example, someone bought the firehouse or bought another place. Say they came to the town hall and wanted the full one. My question is, because I know you're only gonna go for 2. But my whole thing is, if you have to go through the legislators, sometimes they can be a little slow. And also, if you only go through for 2, say another time you have to go back, say 3 or 4. That's going to cost money because the attorneys have to look at it, correct? Before it goes to the, goes?
Well, I think the intent is we're actually doing some studies now to come up with what a viable number is.
Okay.
Actually, don't get too deep into it because it's
No.
not on the agenda.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. It was
but I'm
just,
we're working on that. We're gonna come up with a number to present to the town.
yeah, because, I mean, the only reason in 2007, they went for 12. Because I looked it up in the town book, and they went for 12 in 2007. But my whole thing was, every time you have to go, you do it, you have to submit it, make sure the paperwork's correct. The attorneys have to look at it, and it costs more money.
Not really. The attorneys at the State House look at it. It's not the
You don't
town
have
attorney.
ours look at it to make sure everything's
don't.
worded
Very
correctly?
Very limited, because it's the same language
The same
typically.
language.
Okay.
All we can say is stay tuned.
Oh, okay. The other thing is, I had a question, when Mr. Scollin said they get $3 million for the the Patriots for the, in lunar taxes. What account does that go in, and does anybody keep track of how much is spent out of it?
Yeah, it's
Randy?
actually here, it's like,
Thank you.
Good evening. That's the payment in lieu of taxes in the stadium is part of what's called our local receipts, and local receipts are, about $10 million. That's a major component of it, and those funds go into the general fund, and they support all of the general fund operating budgets, school and town.
Thank you. Anyone else for citizen input? Okay. On November 3rd, there was a joint meeting with Planning Board, Economic Development Committee, Board of Selectmen, with Metropolitan Area Planning Council. It was a very informative meeting. They presented good data and research regarding development opportunities and strategies for the Route 1 corridor. The information that they're able to provide is going to prove invaluable as we look to further our opportunities in and around Route 1. We're doing something very similar with the other business nodes. So that was a very good kickoff. I want to do a shout out to Mike Johns for putting together the Veterans Day ceremony last Wednesday. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend. Chris?
Yeah, it was a good, Mike does a great job. He's a tremendous asset for the town and the veteran population. It was, with anything like that, I wish it was better attended in the audience, but it was good. It was very good.
Yeah, Mike always does a good job with those events. And then, as an aside, I just want to make a general comment without getting into any specifics. As elected officials and part of a policy-making board, we need to be very mindful of what we say and how we say it in the public, so we don't inadvertently sway opinions or influence committees. If we have information to share or concerns over an issue before a particular committee or board, we should reach out to the chair or attend the meetings so a discussion on the topic can be had in the open. I know I've gone to many meetings with a particular mindset, and after hearing both sides of the issue, actually changed my position based on the information that I found. It's just a note. Just take it for what it is. It being 7:15, Foxborough Housing Authority, appointment of Thomas K. Kelly. Bill, do they have to open their meeting?
I believe you
this?
do. Have you posted your meeting for tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so you just need to call your meeting to order, that's all.
I have to call him.
Yeah, now you're the chairman. Are you the chairman?
Yes, I am,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Under the statute, we have a vacancy in the Housing Authority. The last town election, there were 2 openings. Only one was contested. Wasn't even contested, only one was run for. So we've had an opening. Tom Kelly volunteered to join us, and so that's the purpose of this meeting. So having said that, I'd like to open the meeting. This is under statute again. It's a joint meeting between the appointing authority, which is the Board of Selectmen, and the authority to which the person will be joining. There has to be a majority vote of everyone, and so that's what the purpose is. We have Charlene Kay, who's a member, Tom, Candace Lowen, who's our executive director, and we have 2 people on the way, but they're not here yet, but I think we still would have enough to make the vote. Okay? So Tom is a lifelong resident of Foxborough. He's, I think you've seen his resume. He's been in business as a real estate developer, a real estate agent. I think his input and his experience is going to be very helpful to us. We are, as you may remember, we are still in the process of trying to develop some land on Walnut Street, and I think that Tom's expertise and experience is going to be very helpful in that process. So we are very happy to nominate him to be a member of the Foxborough Housing Authority. So I would move that Tom Kelly be approved as a member of the Foxborough Housing Authority.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of information for both parties that this appointment is only good to the next election.
Right.
So which is scheduled to be in the spring. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he would run for the full...
The open seat.
That term, yeah, whatever's remaining on that term, which will be 4 years, I believe.
That is correct.
So when is the appointment?
If he's approved tonight, it will be effective for tonight until the next election, which will be held in April.
Right.
April.
May, the town one.
May, I'm sorry, I'm thinking town meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, John.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. Good luck.
Welcome aboard.
Moving right along that felt, but
I do too. Want to do a couple action items?
what do we got next?
17.
2 minutes.
Yeah, we can do a few action items.
Yeah. One of the worst ones. Who's that one?
All right, we're a couple minutes early, so we're gonna take care of a couple of action items. Number one, Council on Aging donation. I'd like to make a motion, we accept the gift donation of $50 from Mr. and Mrs. Brian Foley in memory of Ted Inman.
And I'll second that with gratitude.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
Number two, another Council on Aging. I make a motion, we accept the gift donation of $100 from Mr. and Mrs. David Lowe in memory of Ted Inman.
I'll second that. Again, with gratitude. It's always nice to get donations.
Okay, seconded. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor? Aye.
Want to keep going right down the row?
Yeah, we got
Okay.
2 minutes.
All right, number three, Wampanoag Road Runners. I make a motion, we accept the change of date for the old-fashioned 10-miler and 5K road race from February 14th, 2016 to February 21st, 2016, with a possible snow date of March 13th, 2016.
Second.
All those in favor?
We have some discussion, hold on. Did we already approve the original date?
You did,
Okay.
and then they found out that there was another major race the
Okay.
same time as theirs, so they
That's,
changed.
okay. All right, that's all I have for discussion.
All those in favor?
Number four, Foxborough Planning, make a motion, we accept the gift donation of $360 for the Sharon Wasson Pavilion Fund from Kevin and Diane Weinfeld.
I'll second that, and thank you, Kevin and Diane.
All those in favor? Aye.
Number five, Council on Aging, make a motion, we accept gift donation of $50 from Ms. Jocelyn Tripp in memory of Ted Inman and Vivian Pitts.
Second, with endless gratitude.
Seconded. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, one approval.
Yep.
It being 7:20, Randy Scullin, public hearing, classification hearing.
I'm going to read the notice in. Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough will hold a public hearing at the Media Center at the Foxborough Public High School, Foxborough, Mass. on Tuesday, November 17th, 2015, at 7:20 p.m. with the Board of Assessors, Chief Assessor, and the Finance Director to review property valuations and the total values of all property subject to taxation in each of the 4 classes of real property as defined by law. Board of Selectmen will vote on the adoption of a residential factor and then determine within prescribed limits calculated by the Department of Revenue, what percentage of that tax burden is to be borne by each property class. The Board of Assessors, Chief Assessor, and the Finance Director will provide information and data relevant to making these policy decisions, including the fiscal effect of the available alternatives. All interested persons are encouraged to attend the hearing and will have the right to provide oral and written comments or suggestions.
Welcome.
Great, thank you, good evening. I'd like to introduce our Chief Assessor on assignments, and the Board of Assessors, introduce yourself.
Thomas Buckley, Mike Larissy.
And I believe you gentlemen need to open your meeting.
That's new. So as Mr. Mitchellmore said earlier, I guess we'll open up our meeting for our joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen tonight for the classification hearing.
Excellent. Just to give some purpose to what's called the classification hearing, it's to review the property valuations of the property classes subject to taxation and decide whether to maintain a split tax rate, eliminate the split, or modify the split by shifting the burdens between the residential, which is one class, and the business classes of property, which are three classes, into commercial, industrial, and personal property, hence the terminology classification hearing. And the context of the hearing is this is required annual touchstone along the way to have the town's tax rate set and ultimately approved by the Department of Revenue. Once the classification decision is made by the Board of Selectmen, the last components of the documentation will be forwarded to the Department of Revenue for their final review. Assuming everything is in order, we're looking to receive a quick approval this week, which will allow us to mail our third and fourth quarter tax bills by the end of December with February 1 and May 1 due dates. That's context. I provided you with a fairly detailed package, and traditionally I've just covered the highlights in the executive summary and then turned it over to the board to discuss valuation changes and their recommendation, and then take questions from the board and or the public, if that's okay. Great. The fiscal 16 tax levy, and we're in fiscal 16 right now, is increasing by $1.98 million, or 4.79%. The increase is comprised of 2.32%, or $957,000, as allowed by Proposition 2.5. It's not exactly 2.5% because you can't increase on the debt exclusions, so that's just the way the math works. So 2.32% by Prop 2.5. And then it's reduced by 15 basis points, or $62,000, due to decreased excluded debt as a result of our scheduled amortization of the existing debt, and we've added no new debt. So the total tax increase on pre-existing property is 2.17%, or $895,000. And new growth taxes has added 2.63% to the levy, or $1.09 million. We continue to tax to the limits allowed by Proposition 2.5 for the 19th consecutive year. However, Foxborough has no general override capacity built into the levy, whereas 10 out of the 15 area communities have an additional general override leverage capacity averaging $4.4 million. So that's the levy itself, and the total levy is $43.34 million. As far as values go, the FY16 total taxable property value increased by 6.62%, or just under $174 million. The average single residential values increased by just over 7%, and the average business values increased by just over 3.5%, so about half the rate that the residential properties increased. Over the last 10 years, the average residential value has actually decreased by about $17,500, or 4.3%. I think we had a bubble then, and we've got a resuming bubble now. The average single-family property value, including condominiums, is increased this year by just under $26,000 to $393,000, and the average single-family property value, excluding condominiums, has increased by just under $27,000 to $406,000. So values are rising for residential. The residential class of property totals 76.48% of all property value, which remains significantly higher than the 2010 baseline year. And we call it the baseline year because that was the year, that was a revaluation year, and that was the year that all of the major new taxable growth had been captured in our tax base. Patriot Place, Foxborough Lodge, Chestnut Green, and quite a bit of other residential property as well. So that split of residential versus business at the time, 72.8% to 27.8%, that was considered to be our, our baseline year with all of the new values coming on board. And just so we're clear, the Foxborough Lodge property, that's considered residential, all apartment properties are considered residential, so it was an equal significant movement to both commercial and residential. So the remaining 23.52% at this point in time is associated with commercial, industrial, and personal property classes. Over the last 6 years, residential property has increased from 72.8% in fiscal 10 to a total valuation of the current 76.48. This shift results in a continuing trend of more of the tax burden falling on residential taxpayers than on business taxpayers. However, in fiscal 12, the Board of Selectmen equalized this trend by splitting the tax rate, which had the effect of maintaining the tax burden split of fiscal 10. The tax impact to residential taxpayers this year from this 6-year trend and value shifting away from business taxpayers is just under $1.6 million in total, and that's in fiscal 16. So if the town reverted to a single tax rate, that would fall back to residential taxpayers. The tax rate itself, assuming no split tax rate, which we currently have one, but assuming no split tax rate, the tax rate per thousand in assessed value would increase by just under 2% or 30 cents for residential classes, and would decrease by 11.6% or just over $2 for business classes. Assuming the current split was maintained, the residential tax rate would decrease by 45 cents to $14.74, and the business rate would increase by 39 cents to $17.91. Now the tax bill. This is what really matters. The next three scenarios that I'm going to walk through, those scenarios are actually laid out in some detail in pages 4, 5, and 6 in your packets. I'm going to speak to what they are, and if you wanted to see them visually, they're on pages 4, 5, and 6. So assuming a single tax rate, the average single-family tax bill would increase by just over 9%, or over $500 to somewhere between $6,100 and $6,300, depending upon if we're including condominiums in the average. The average commercial tax would decline by 8.5%, or $2,300 to $24,860, and the average industrial tax would decline by 8.4%, or $915 to $9,952. So, assuming a single tax rate has some pretty significant swings. Assuming the current split is maintained, the average single-family tax would increase by between 3.8 and 3.86%, or between $250 and $220 on average, for an average tax bill of between about $5,800 and $55.98 thousand. The average commercial tax would increase by 5.8%, or $1,575 to $28,700, and the average industrial tax would increase by just under 5.9%, or $640 to about $11,500. And then we looked at another scenario. So those are the two sort of ends of the spectrum scenario. One is if you went back to the single tax rate, and the other one is if we maintain the split that we have. And then we looked at another split. There are several to look at, but the one we looked at was one where the average tax bill increase across the commercial, industrial, and residential classes was approximately the same. so a similar percentage increase in the tax bill. So with this particular split, which we'll discuss more, the average single-family tax bill would rise by about 4.4%, or about $250, and that would average about $5,822 for properties that where we include condominiums, and if it's just the single-family houses, the average bill would be $6,021. The average commercial tax would increase by 4.3%, or $1,174 to $28,340, and the average industrial tax would increase by about 4.4%, or $479 to $11,346. It's always good to have.
Ask you a question?
Sure, please. Yeah.
The top of that second page, the last bullet point, residential tax rates would decrease by 45 cents if we kept the current split. Right?
Correct.
And then in the, assuming the current split maintained, that first bullet point, is that because the property valuations went up that much that we would increase the taxes?
The just to make sure I understand your question, Chris. The tax, the amount of tax that's collected in total doesn't change. This is just a shift of the burden, or who pays what. So, and the tax rate is the toggle point to shift to residential or business, depending upon which tax rate you choose. So in this scenario here, with the current split being maintained, because residential values went up twice as high as business values, they would receive a decrease in the rate, whereas the businesses would receive a modest increase in the rate.
Already, just to clarify, we have a budget to meet. We know the number.
Right.
And yet all the property owners in town have to share in contributing to that.
Correct.
It's not necessarily based on I guess it is based on the value of the house, but it's just how you divide the pie is based on the value of the properties.
That's exactly right. The other piece, just to give context to where Foxborough stands, everybody I know likes to compare, our tax burden compared to other communities. So annually I update community comparisons, 15 surrounding communities, and because we don't have complete data for fiscal 16, I'm always looking a year back. So I'm looking at fiscal 15, but everything moves pretty much in lockstep. Some things come in waves. But looking at the Foxborough's fiscal 15 total valuation of property of $1.63 billion, just single family property, that's 18.5% or $372 million less than the FY15 average of the 15 area communities, which was about $2 billion. And that's a major driver of the financial constraints that Foxborough has, is that we just don't have as much taxable property as, on average, the other communities that surround us. And it's got nothing to do with the value of the town's property. It's just we don't have as much of it.
But Randy, to be fair, that square miles and population enter into that as well.
Right. That's why it's an average of the small, all 15 that surround us. Plainville's in there, Franklin's in there, Norfolk. So it's a pretty well-rounded average.
Well, North Attleboro is a little bit bigger than us.
Right. You're a little bigger, but we're getting there with our commercial base. And the total number of, it just follows the total number of single-family parcels. We've got last year 4,284. That's 16.25% less than the average of the communities around us of 5,115. Our average single-family value in FY15 was just under $380,000, or about 3% lower than the average of the 15 area communities, about $392,000. And this is an area that I believe that comes in waves. It cycles through the communities and doesn't always happen evenly. So, but Foxborough has caught up this year, given the sales activity that's occurred, where we've leaped forward 7% this year. And our average single-family tax bill last year of $5,768, that was 4% lower than the 15 area communities, sort of commensurate with the value difference and the fact that we don't have the overrides. 9 of the 15 area communities adopted a split tax rate structure last year, meaning residential lower than business. Last piece that I have here before turning it over to the Board of Assessors is just explaining that the Board of Selectmen has the option to annually maintain a single tax rate or establish a split tax rate. And shifts in residential, what's called the residential factor, can be up to 17.6% of the total tax burden can be shifted. For example, you could do one of the smallest shifts of 0.32%, and that would reduce the average residential tax bill just over $19 and increase the average business tax bill about $101. A 4.33% shift would reduce the average residential tax bill by about $259, increase the average business tax bill by about $1,463. That's compared to a single rate, but we're already at a split rate. And in the extreme, you could make a move that would reduce the average residential bill by about $1,380 and increase the average business tax by about $7,800. Believe it or not, there are actually a couple communities that do that, but we're very, very far from that.
Randy, just a real quick question, just for, there's two new members here, but a little historical perspective of what caused us to deviate from the single tax rate. What economic forces made that happen? And then secondly, what scenarios would have to exist, I guess, in the future to say, how could we get back to a single tax rate? And why, where's the lopsidedness?
Sure. Do you want me to handle that? Sure. I think the best visual representation that I have of that is on page 7. And again, at that benchmark year in fiscal 2010, when we had a revaluation, so all properties were revisited, rescrubbed, reanalyzed. The state looks harder at them in reval years. We had all of the new growth that had hit the town, the major new growth all the business new growth, and the apartment complex new growth, and there was actually substantial residential growth at the time. So that year, we concurred was sort of a great baseline year for the town of Foxborough, because everything moved and was revalued at the same time. And then we watched it. And after 2 years, in 2012, we noticed the drift, that the residential share of the total value was climbing faster than the business value. And all that means is that the residential share of the pie, or share of the tax burden, was growing. And so the Board of Assessors reviewed that, and they considered the classic reason why a board would consider a split tax rate, and that is to maintain an equal split of the tax burden. That's the classic example. There are many other reasons that are more political than anything, but the most economically based, from a fairness perspective, is just maintaining the split of the burden. So we saw the drift, and we recommended that the split be put in place to replicate what we had as a split of burden in fiscal 2010. And for the last 3 years after that, 13, 14, and 15, we've maintained that. And so here we are in 16, and the drift is continuing even further. It's getting even further. And I don't know if, Mike, you wanted to, or Tom.
That answers my second question.
Sure.
I was kind of hoping it was drifting the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I'll just go into, we met last night. Our third member had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to attend either of these 2 meetings with us. But we did unanimously vote to do a split again this year. And I'll try to explain our reasoning behind that. So the rate that we did, if you look at page 14, down below the halfway mark of the sheet, you'll see on the left-hand side a 1.14 shift, and that is actually the same scenario that Randy talked about in the third scenario that he talked about, where the reason why we looked at that one was because it was an even increase in both commercial and residential. Looking at the other scenarios, you had major differences in that shift, and, you know, one of them had, I think, the residential was going up.
Over 9%.
Over 9%. So, you know, I've been accused over the years that maybe, you know, trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, but I don't agree with that totally, because I think back in 2012 when we made this decision, well, Foxborough didn't look like it did 10, 15 years ago. I mean, we have a much larger commercial base now, and at that time, it was a huge shift in the values, and we were going to hit the residentials really hard that year. And so that's when it's the same board, we made that decision to make that shift. In the meantime, I mean, I don't have to tell everybody that, you know, things aren't as rosy as some media pundits want to say, and the economy isn't all that great when it comes to the business and in the corporate life. You know, things are getting better, there's no doubt, but you look at some of the sales in the community, there are a lot of sales, but there's not a lot of homes on the market. So, you know, the prices are being inflated, and Michael will talk a little bit about that. So we looked at this again, and, you know, I know there's a feeling with some people in the community to get back to that single rate, but I think the beauty of this whole process is that this is an everyday occurrence. We are having a reval next year, so the commercial values will be a lot tighter. We'll have a really good handle on that, because that's not something that is looked at every year. You know, we get the I&Es every year, but this year, you know, we have funding in place to do a reval of all the commercial properties throughout the whole community. So we'll be using the I&Es, which is the income and expense formula, but also for those businesses who don't partake in that, we have professionals look at those values and put a real value on all those commercial properties. So it could change next year. We just don't know where it's going.
Okay, so actually, that's good news. We can get a new baseline set up.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is that your recommendation, is to go to the 1.14
Yeah,
CIP
and again, that is the reason for that is because it makes the increase even, basically even.
On a
So
percentage base.
you have the residential and condominium will go up 4.42%, and the commercial will go up 4.32%. So that's our recommendation. Just to keep it, again, for the fairness factor, we're impacting both class of properties throughout the whole community.
Tell me if I'm reading this right, but it looks to me like it's a negative 4.3% change for residential.
That's the comparison to a single rate tax.
Oh, okay, all right.
So the shift, in essence, is 4.33% of the
Right.
burden, and that's approximately $1.5 million, whereas the maximum you could do is somewhere around 17.6%. So we're still pretty far down the curve.
But the whole idea of this is just to keep levels as close to the current levels as you can.
Yes.
Right, we're not,
Percentage-wise.
right, but we're not using the same split that we used last year, this year, because there was a skew in that one. We're trying to keep it level, so we're actually throttling it back.
So I think it's a fine line between overshifting the burden to commercial businesses and stifling expansion and development versus really trying to keep things fair and equitable. You know, if you look at, you know, the communities around us that do have a split rate, we're very competitive with them on the commercial side, if not less. So there is room to proportionally move that burden and still remain competitive. So I think that's
And
that's
don't
moving in
forget,
the
too,
right
we
direction.
do next year, hopefully next year, there'll be the Foxville Plaza project will be coming online, and the new hotel up at Patriot Place, and any of the other residential, the domain behind on Fisher Street. So all that will come into play, too. So
I think it's important for everybody to realize that, you know, there's a definite positive to economic growth in everybody's pocketbooks. It really affects how much you pay on an annual basis on your property taxes. So that's really good information. Anybody have any more questions?
So just to be clear, the recommendation from the assessors is what?
It's actually, the official is the .956951 residential factor.
And there are two actions effectively being asked of the board tonight. The first is to whether or not, it's the vote to determine whether or not you want to retain the shift. That's question number one, and the second is how much of the shift is it?
So give me that number again, so it has to be right into the motion.
.956951
Residential factor.
residential factor.
It's right on your sheet when you provide it.
Now,
Doesn't mean I have to find it.
being this a public hearing, we should open it up to
Yes.
anybody in the audience. Is the board all set? Does anybody have any more questions?
Yeah,
I'm
that's
good.
reasonable.
Jenny, all set?
Oh, I'll say.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Dennis Naughton, 4 Everett Lane. I urge the board to maintain a split rate. I think a couple of things that haven't been talked about here tonight is the fact that Foxborough is a graying community, and that those among us who are graying got no increase in Social Security this year. And on top of that, got a rather significant raise in the cost of Medicare because of the rather absurd formula that kicks in when there is no raise in the Social Security itself. And so these are factors, I think, that need to be taken into consideration by the board and by the Board of Assessors every year going forward as part of the consideration in terms of fairness. I want to say that I like the fact, as a citizen of the town, I very much like the fact that there is an effort at fairness in this proposal. I wish that the original split ratio from the past year was maintained, but I can see for this 1 year anyway, going forward to maybe another baseline, that this is a fair way to go, and I hope the Board of Selectmen will adopt their proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
One question, when you go through your analysis, do you, I don't know how much economic data is in front of you, but you know, to his point, do you get into details about you know, the average incomes, average debt loads, Medicare reimbursements? Do you get down into those weeds?
No.
It's really based on the property values themselves.
Just that, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else from the audience?
Close
No?
the public hearing.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Discussion? Okay, public hearing is now closed. You make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the split tax rate.
Okay, you gotta say that, you gotta read that number.
Don't we have to do the first one and
No,
then
It's all
all in one?
motion.
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion then to approve the recommendation by the Board of Assessors and adopt the residential factor of 0.956951.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion?
One document to send by you, and I'll get this to DOR in the morning.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks for all the work, guys.
Thanks, Randy.
Gals.
Thank you. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Ready to thank Anna for Anna for her work.
Today is 11/17.
Oh, you're right on time.
You don't sign that, we're gonna pass it on. It being 7:50, Bar Louie, William Cochran Jr., change of manager. Hello?
Not a public hearing, right?
No. Will you state your name for the record?
William Cochran Jr.
You here by yourself, not represented by counsel?
Correct.
Brad Taylor was the former manager.
Correct.
Is he staying on in another capacity? Is he moving on?
He moved to Texas.
He moved to Texas?
Within our company.
Have you been working in the establishment?
Yes, off and on for the last 5.5 years.
5.5 years. What was your position there?
I was the general manager up until 3 years ago. Then I went to district, and now I'm back in full force as a general manager.
Bill, we have a sort of a battery of questions that we're going to ask you about the regulations in the town of Foxborough, and if you're familiar with them, and basically how you would run the operation in compliance with them.
Yep.
And if you could speak on that topic, because we have had some, sting operations in town over the past few years, and a number of establishments have been caught up with that, and our penalties, I think, have been fair, but they've been firm. One thing a business doesn't want to do is to lose business, obviously. But could you address that question and tell us how you run an operation?
When it comes to alcohol service, we're very diligent about training within our staffs. Every member of our team has to be tip certified before they even begin. We also have, obviously the scanner at the front door that we go through and make sure after 9 o'clock everyone that walks into the building is scanned before that, or after 9 o'clock. In the meantime, we have our door guys actually go around and kind of card the people within the building, so we can maintain a 21 and over after 9 p.m. on the weekends.
So you have a sort of a secondary carding operation?
Yes.
Or random, I guess?
Yes.
Okay. You've been in this business for quite a while, and we took a look at your application, and you did have a blemish on your record. Can you tell us how you mitigated that?
When I first moved up here, I was from the Midwest, and it's kind of a little bit different out there. And we got hit with an underage when I first got here, and essentially we really took it to the team and just took our training above and beyond. We had Jim Staples involved, kind of going through and doing a personalized tips class for everyone, and we just continued going that route, the whole time since I've been in this area.
Were you the manager on record previous?
No, I was not.
Have you ever been the manager on record for any other establishment?
For our location in Fenway, or Boston. Yeah.
So this is your primary location now?
This will be, yes.
Do you live locally, Bill?
I live in Norfolk.
Okay, so it's easy to get to the establishment and home?
Very quickly.
Okay. And how many hours a week are you going to plan to be there? 160?
I'm hoping not. Hopefully 55 to 60. Okay. I mean, that's kind of our standard. So.
Okay. How long were you the manager in the Boston location?
I opened the store there, so I was there for about a little over a year, and then I took over the capacity of a kind of a district, so I would bounce from there and back here. So, I mean, I still spent time in the Foxborough location over the course of the last 2 years.
Brad Taylor was a regular member of the Fox Cares group.
I plan on taking up his spot right there. I know we had a meeting scheduled for tomorrow that's been postponed, but yeah, I do plan on being part of it. Okay. I was also at the Norfolk County thing that we had on Monday. So
okay. Great. Any more questions?
No.
Any motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, we approve the change of manager at Bart Louis to William Cochran Jr.
I'm assuming this is effective immediately, right? Or are you already the manager?
I mean, I'm managing there.
Yeah, so, okay, just we're formalizing it.
Yes.
Formalizing it. I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Good
very
luck,
much.
Congratulations. Oh, we're ahead of schedule again. Finish up the action items.
Yep. We're just gonna do a few more action items till we get to the 8 o'clock.
Well, I really may have to keep this job, you know.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Just have to kick Jim when he gets
That's right,
long-winded.
that's right.
All right, number 6, Jake and Joe's, make a motion, we accept an early opening request on January 1st, 2016 at 11 a.m.
Didn't they ask for 10? Am I wrong?
I got 11 a.m.
Oh, okay. I thought I wrote it as 10.
And that is the result of the Winter Classic at Gillette. They want to open up an hour early.
The letter requests
says
till
it's
10 a.m.
No, I saw 10,
No,
yeah.
but they're not allowed to.
Right.
Yeah. So we
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 7, Friends of the Flagpole. I'd like to make a motion, we accept the gift donations from various donors in the amount of $3,660.97.
I'll second that, and thank you to all the growing list of donors. Still need more out there, but the amount of money donated is really starting to build, so thank you all for having sent in some money.
And do we know where we're at percentage-wise?
40.
Yeah,
over
40,
40%.
I think we could be up over 40% now.
This is just a,
It's arm twisting time.
yeah, well, I'm on the committee, and we've done really well being at 40%. We haven't even, well, we just sent letters to all of the local businesses, so this is all the residents and anybody that's heard of it.
Some of
The
the
schools,
the canisters around town.
yeah,
you know.
the schools have stepped up. They stepped up right before Veterans Day, so we're hoping with the business letter going out for the ask to the local businesses right around the common and a little further out that will at least, I'm hoping we double the 40% very soon.
Great.
Just as a reminder, a donation to the flag makes a wonderful Christmas gift
That's right.
for the person on your list that has everything.
And it is tax deductible.
It's a tax
Tax
deductible.
deductible.
That's right.
Very good, Ginny. That was excellent.
One, Jack. Good commercial break.
We had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor?
All right. All right, we got 1 minute left. Number 8, Foxborough Planning. I'd like to make a motion, accept the gift donation of $250 from for the Sharon Wasson Pavilion Fund from Anonymous.
Thank you, Anonymous, and I will second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
All right, why don't we stop there?
Yep. Being 8 o'clock, is Roger here?
Yeah, Roger's
Yeah,
there.
he's in the back. Hiding.
Roger Hill, DPW Director, discussion, vote, Fails Place and Gilmore Street signage.
Evening.
Hi, Roger.
Roger, how are you?
Not bad.
You being sponsored by Sports Illustrated?
It was a freebie.
Naming rights on his chest.
Yeah.
So after the meeting you had in the neighborhood, but I went out and looked for those 45-degree clips, and they don't make them anymore. But after the meeting, I saw what the people wanted, I decided it's probably better if we just put new posts up anyway. So I can turn them 45 and mount both signs if we need to.
On the existing signs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just to bring everybody up to speed, I touched on it last meeting. I met with the residents. It was about 20 residents or so of Fails Place and Gilmore Street. And it was, it was hard to come to an immediate conclusion or decision to make everybody happy, but we came up with I think was a good compromise. Everybody that night thought it was a good compromise to put up a do not enter during 3:30 to 6 or 6:30.
6:30 p.m.
Yeah. It won't affect the charter, not the charter, the Montessori school that's in existence there, because they're done by a little after 3. But there are some other issues that were discussed that night regarding, flow of traffic at school time. So Bill and I are going to try to set up a meeting with whoever runs that sometime next week and see what we can work out there. But I think the consensus were the signs that we did put up originally with a no-through-way helped a little bit. And everybody really thought that these signs would definitely make a big difference. So
This new sign that you looked at, the ones I found are a red ball with a bar on it, and then I have a legend down below, and it will say 3:30 to 6:30 p.m.
And the red makes it enforceable, right?
Yeah.
And if
Well, if you have to go through a process. I need a vote of the Board of Selectmen to make them enforceable. You have to act as highway commissioners to do that. That's your job anyway. You are the highway commissioners of Foxborough. So anytime I put up a regulatory sign, it can't be enforced unless there's a vote behind it.
But as far as the state is concerned, or whoever, I mean, if we vote to...
If we had to send every regulatory sign up to the state, we would never get any of them approved because they'd have 50 million of them up there. Most towns, the big ones are stop, yield, and traffic lights. Those are and speed limit signs. Those are the ones that the state will really regulate, and they'll do what they have to do. And the studies are expensive to do those. But for small, throughways and things like that, those are things that the towns usually just adopt on their own.
So, Roger, that'll be the only change. There's not going to be any change in speed limit or any other modifications of the roadway?
Well, the speed limit is set by state statute at the lower end of what it is. It's 30 miles an hour statewide for thickly settled, and anything with houses less than 200 feet apart is thickly settled under Massachusetts law. There are no speed limits below that, even though sometimes we'll put up signs. Like if I can put up advisory speed plates for 15 miles an hour if somebody wants that. But
That was a concern, the speeding factor. I know the officer that was here said it would be tough to get up to 30, but on a street like that, I actually took a walk over there on Monday morning because I wanted to observe the school traffic, and I wasn't on the street more than 3 minutes, and I almost got ran over by a truck. So the speed factor, definitely on a small, narrow street, the corner of Fales,
it's
where
90-degree corner
is brutal.
And it's 21 feet wide.
The residents told me that night, and when I walked around there, I apologize, I haven't gotten back there to do it, but I did on Monday, and it's dangerous. It really is. So I would say we should try to, even if the 15 mile an hour isn't enforceable, I would put it up there because at least somebody will see it, and
they might pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So if we do move to approve the do not enter sign, the residents understand that they're not exempt?
That's right.
And everybody's okay with that?
Any residents want to come up and speak on it? No?
Well, you have to go around the other way.
Any more questions from the board?
You guys have anything?
Well, let's go back to the suggested speed limits. Could that be part of this package?
You don't need to vote that.
That's your call?
Yeah.
I can put them up.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I know.
The speed limit wouldn't be enforceable if we posted 15. It's
I could
not
post
enforceable.
15 though.
But we can make the do not enter enforceable.
exactly.
enforceable to everybody, so
Yeah, you
neighbors. Yeah.
can't, pick and choose who you're going to enforce against.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it'll be, and I know from that meeting, and I don't think it'll inconvenience many, so, okay.
Incidentally, we had another hydrant near knocked down on the common today.
Really?
I was really worried about it. I would lose another section of fence, but we didn't. I don't have any more spares.
There you go.
We're going to have to get some new castings made, and it's pretty good money to do those, so.
Need to put a fence up to protect the fence.
All right, so,
So Roger, this will be a round sign?
Yeah, this is a round sign with a red and white legend and a bar across it. And it's basically a legend sign that says, do not enter.
Okay.
And then underneath there'll be another rectangular sign with the long axis horizontal that'll say 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m.
Okay, and the letter said Monday through Friday, but that's not going to be on there?
I
Just
can
the
put it
time?
on. It's hard. There's a lot you have to digest when you're driving.
Yeah.
If you just put the sign up and, I don't know, it's up to the police what they want to do on weekends,
Okay, so this means that this is for Fales and Gilmore?
Fales and Gilmore.
off
Okay.
of 140.
And these signs are going to be on a angle of 45 degrees so that traffic coming southbound on Main Street can see those signs and know that it pertains to those streets. And I'm going to try to put them close to the street signs if I can.
I know they had some, there was a couple of ideas of putting them on the opposite side of what they are now.
I might have to do that.
Okay. I think the neighbors would appreciate that.
We have to do a dig safe up there before we put the signs in. You always have to do that, so.
When could these be installed?
I ordered the signs about a week ago from Liddell. Their usual turnaround time is about a month.
Okay.
They're custom.
It'll be a Christmas present.
The ball signs, the round signs are not custom, but the legend signs are custom made, so.
Okay.
So we're leaving Granite Street with no sign at all?
Right.
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 Any questions?
No. I make, do we have to vote on making it? So I make a motion that we approve the do not enter signs on Falls and Gilmore from 3:30 to 6:30, Monday through Friday, and to make them enforceable, as well as put a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit sign there.
I'll second that.
Under discussion, are you putting Monday through Friday on the sign, or?
I'll see if I can squeeze it on. I'm a little worried about the size of the letters and the ability to read those.
What's the weekend traffic like there to the residents?
It's still practically new.
Practically, it's only when, Monday through Friday, when the
Yeah.
common gets backed up, 140 is
Yeah.
backed up. Okay.
You want to try and get them Monday through Friday on there?
I'll try to squeeze it on, yeah. I don't want these to be overwhelmingly big, that's all. I want, the ball's 2 feet in diameter, that's what it is.
Why don't you, will you get like a mock-up of what it's gonna look like, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, make your own decision if it's,
If I can fit it, I'll put them
Okay.
on.
Well, does that affect?
It might
the
say
vote?
M to F instead of Monday through Friday.
that's what I mean, M
M to
through
F.
F. I mean, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Roger, the reason why the question is because it does affect the board's vote. If the board votes that only Monday through Friday, then it's only effective Monday through Friday. So
Yeah, and you should vote that, and
Well, that was my motion, Monday through Friday.
If I have to,
I just want.
if I have to, I might go to a square instead of a rectangle.
Okay, but you can figure out how to get Monday through Friday on there.
Yeah.
M to F.
Through F.
M through F.
Okay, so we had a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
John
second.
seconded.
All those in favor?
Thanks.
Thanks, Roger.
Just while Roger's here, the no three-way sign, will that still be,
Yeah, I think we should leave them there.
so the no three-way signs will remain?
Does anybody object to those?
You're gonna leave them there until we put the other signs up, right?
I'll probably put both signs up.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. We're a minute behind schedule, sorry, Bill.
That's all right.
Roger
All right,
talked
you're
too
going to
long.
lose the job now.
Yeah, Barry asked a question, threw us off.
Barry's fault.
Bill Keegan, Stadium Seating Fees Status Report.
Going to probably make it up on this because I don't have a long report to give you anyway. So the good news is that we've made a fair amount of progress on this issue. We have the town council, Pat Costello, and council for the craft group have been working on a draft for the language for the MOU, and it's gone back a few times now. So we're trying to iron out a few wrinkles, but I think we're hopefully going to be able to get this resolved in the next few weeks. And we had another follow-up meeting yesterday, and I think we make good progress on that front. So, all in all, I'm encouraged by the direction that we're taking on this, and that hopefully we'll be back with you within a few weeks with a document to be signed and finalized. So, we had another discussion yesterday on some other important issues, and we sort of started to lay out some roadmaps as to issues that we can start talking about over the longer term. But I won't get into that tonight, obviously. But I think tonight, suffice it to say that we are making good progress on this issue. I'm pleased with the direction that we're taking at this point, and I appreciate the support that we're getting from the craft group.
Well, the good news is there's dialogue.
Yes.
And we're talking, so that's always good.
Yes.
Okay. We finish up our action items.
Yeah, let's go for it.
When we have
3.
3 more.
All right, number 9, Foxborough Realty Associates. I'd like to make the motion with acceptance of a 2-day of 2 one-day beer and wine licenses on December 31st, 2015, from 10:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and January 1st, 2016, 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. with a rain date of January 2nd, 2016 at Lot 22 West Club parking lots.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Number 10, New England Patriots Charitable Foundation. I'd like to make a motion, we accept the one-day, or approve the one-day all-alcohol license on January 1st, 2016 at the Empower Fieldhouse from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Aye.
All right, Board of Selectmen minutes, number 10. Still on track?
Yep.
Okay.
On the October 6th, it says Miss Rhodes, it should say Miss McGowan, just a typo.
Actually, Debbie, I got a few on page 14.
14?
Yeah. I was in a discussion with asking, I think, Bill and Mary Beth if they had talked to AdCom about the special in the middle of their budget season. So go down to the middle of the 3rd paragraph, and I think I used the word bombard rather than bomb, and go back up to it says Mr. Gray stated, and it's not that I made a promise, it's that the Board of Selectmen made a promise years ago. So you can change he to the Board of Selectmen. Also to the sentence following the word town meeting in that same paragraph, where it says they will say that they did not do a proper job to inform the public what they really needed to do. Not that I looked at the tape and got this absolutely right, but this was the intent. Before 2010, the AdCom was disappointed that they did not have enough time to properly vet the budget, and they believed that they were unable to advise town meeting properly. But if that's okay, I can give you that language. That's as close a recollection as I have.
What do we typically do if we're approving these meetings minutes and Jim's not here?
As long as you have a
Quorum.
majority, as long as you have a quorum and a
As long as
majority,
you have a majority.
you're okay.
All right.
It would only be a problem if you didn't have a majority of members.
Yeah, I just wasn't, I mean, these are gonna be archived, and 20 years from now, people are gonna be reading them, and if Jim was misquoted,
Well, he can always move for reconsideration. We can open it up.
That's true.
there you go.
That's also
All right.
true.
On page 4, third paragraph, last sentence, progress to the point where they can, it should say present something, not represent.
Where are you, Dave?
Page 4, third paragraph,
Okay.
can present, will represent. Just minor.
Yep, you're right.
That's all I had.
I'd like to make a motion, then we approve the October 6th Board of Selectmen minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
Seconded. Any discussion? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. October 20th.
I think I had it.
I tried, but couldn't find anything.
Yeah, this was pretty good. Yeah, nothing jumped out at me.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the October 20th Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Second discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye. All right. We're back ahead of schedule.
I'd like to make a motion that we have you run all of Chairman DeValis' meetings going forward, so we can get out of here at a reasonable time. Question from the audience.
Barry, you now Foxborough reporter, just because you're ahead of schedule, I'll say this now. What was the date that you met with the residents about the issue of the signage?
It was a Thursday night football game, I know that.
In October, November.
It was in October, I can tell you in 1 second.
29th?
Thursday, yeah, the 29th of October, Thursday night.
October 29th is when
Yep.
you met with the residents. Excellent, very good.
Okay.
Are you waiting because
It's 8:20 is the next item.
it's an item, though, it's not a hearing?
No, that's
No.
true, that's true.
So
No,
You
we're-
just-
we have that statement.
Yeah, no, we're gonna continue.
Have that.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue.
Just,
They were able to clean up a lot of their other stuff, so we're right back on schedule.
yeah, covered because of the statement.
Right,
If it was a hearing, it would be different, but it's not.
right.
So the time being 8:20. I'd like to go.
So would not, yeah. It's like-
All right, Bill, you're
All
up.
right, thank you.
How's that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item before you tonight is the special town meeting warrant. We, the committee, the board has reviewed this on several occasions, but now the advisory committee has been meeting with the various sponsors of the warrant articles, and they've, in this past week, the meeting was held with the Child Sexual Abuse Committee, and they went over Article 1, which they identified a couple word changes that they've actually identified for reconsideration for the article. It was a very healthy discussion held at the AdCom for that purpose. The committee has gone back and prepared a new draft of that article for the board's consideration, so that if the board is so willing, they could adopt it for tonight, and then it will be further sent back to the advisory committee for further consideration at their next meeting, which is tomorrow night. Yeah.
So the language changes were just highlighted in yellow?
Yes, they were highlighted in yellow. That is correct.
Just let me ask you a clarifying question. One of the changes is in any public or private child care facility. Is that meant to be a broad statement, or is that simply?
That was actually meant to follow the existing statute,
Yeah.
which was not as clear in the proposed warrant article.
Okay,
So
but is that just like a daycare facility, or is it a broader term where any facility that cares for kids?
in a broader term.
Broader sense, okay.
And also, it was further clarified that this new proposed bylaw would affect anyone at the age of 18 or older. Because there was some concern that there are a number of youth that are working in recreational programs, 15, 16, 17 years old, that could actually, that this would apply to. As such, this was cleaned up a little bit, or made a little bit tighter with respect to the changes of establishing an age of 18. And that was acceptable to the committee, and was discussed at length with the advisory committee that night, and that was the agreement that was made. Right. Have I misstated anything so far? So I just want to add.
Part of the discussion
You want to come up, Linda?
about the 8.
Yeah, you might want to just come up.
Yeah, you can sit at the table.
Yeah, if you're going to follow the rules, follow the rules.
That's right.
So I'm Linda Walsh, 8 Pond Avenue, member of the Foxborough Child Sexual Abuse Committee. So we met with AdCom, and as Bill mentioned, it was a healthy discussion. We put in the age 18 or over because the AdCom was concerned that, if there was a 16-year-old, they shouldn't be responsible for reporting something if they saw something. Our kind of reply to that is you could be 16 and be a predator. So, if you're 16 and you're a lifeguard somewhere or something, and, you've already got those intentions. So we're a little concerned about that. But to make peace and to get this thing moving, we accepted the 18 and over. Just to be clear on that.
Linda, what did it say before? Was that line not there?
Was not there.
So it applied to
no
anyone
age.
who's working with kids?
No age, right. It wasn't defined as
Seems
an age.
reasonable. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was discussion about, if I am working with a 17-year-old who is working, let's say at Schneider as a co-op, do I have to be a mandatory reporter? So it kind of went kind of far, the discussion, but to make it clear, that's why we added the child care. Obviously you're not caring for this 17-year-old that's working with you or working with you at Dunkin' Donuts or something, so.
Because it said public or private facilities, but it didn't specify
say
that it was in terms of childcare.
Care, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I mean, childcare doesn't mean just a daycare facility. It's in the broad sense of
In the broader sense.
any club, any facility,
But not
any
like
school.
someone who's 16 working at Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean?
Correct.
It's-
Yeah.
So that was why
That's
we
what
tried to
Dunkin'
make
Donuts' intended purpose is to look after kids.
Exactly.
All the times they do.
Right.
So we
Even-
wanted
yeah.
to make sure
Sometimes it
it's.
is.
Yeah, I
You
know.
The number of donuts you have.
But to just be clear that it wasn't to be, because that was one of the questions that came up that we hadn't thought of when we were looking at the, when we were trying to draft this, that someone might interpret it that way. So that's why it was a really good discussion to have fresh eyes looking at it.
Yeah, the other changes I totally get. It's just I agree with you though that predators come in all ages.
They do.
And
They do.
I just want to make sure that we're throwing a blanket over the entire potential population.
Well, yes, and I would assume that if there was, let's say, a 17-year-old that saw something, they would tell the 18-year-old
Or the
person.
person that was their supervisor.
That's how it kind of rolls.
Chairman, you have
questions?
Chairman, Vice Chair.
Hi, Kristen Papiano, 30 Carpenter Street, also a member of the AdCom. I just wanted to say that completely appreciate all the good work that these folks are doing, and we appreciated the discussion the other night. The spirit of the 18-year-old change is that not that we feel they shouldn't be trained, we think the training's important. It's the legal liability created by the mandatory reporting piece for somebody under the age of 18.
So your position is they couldn't be held legally responsible.
We didn't know what that looked like.
Okay.
For a 15-year-old to be legally responsible as a mandatory reporter. So just for what we thought might be a problem with the way the wording of the law was in terms of enforcement, but would love to see everybody trained.
Okay, but the 18-year-old right now follows state statute, does it?
I don't know if it's
What is
defined
it?
in the statute. I think we're actually, we're carving new ground in some cases. Putting
an age on it.
The childcare facility is actually contained in the statute.
Right.
But I
This
think
was a gray area.
this is a bit of a gray area there.
That's why we're trying to
And
clear
that's
it
why-
up.
And define it, because
Okay.
you think
I
about
mean,
it, you can't even vote
to
until you're
get
18,
this thing
you know, so-
moving, and I agree, we have to get it moving, could we live with the 18 and then work on it to say if we want to do
That's why-
a
yeah,
subsequent
we-
modification,
That was
once
the
we get
idea.
clarification on statute?
Yeah,
Yeah,
can
I
we
mean-
get the clarification between now and the town meeting?
Well, I think the point that we made here was that this was an opportunity to get this statute moved, because ultimately, there's going to be further discussion at the legislative level. If they feel the need to move in that
Okay,
direction.
all right, I
Yeah,
get it.
they might carve this up.
They may make
So-
changes to it.
But I think, to have AdCom recommend it in this form, I can live with it, but if somebody could look into that, I'd like to know
Right.
where the line has to be drawn legally.
Right, and if you look at the state, it's so gray that that's why we're doing this, basically, because
Right, your organization is actually writing the platform for other communities
hopefully,
to adopt.
hopefully that'd be
Yeah,
nice,
so-
but right now,
Not even
my
locally,
main
but
concern is
nationwide
our
level.
children, yes, right here.
Okay.
So there's a good chance this may change once it gets to the
It could come back,
to the legislature.
it could come back.
So I think this is a good compromise to move it forward.
The only other change that I want to mention, Vicky Lowe, 47 Spruce Street, part of this committee, is that we took, for a point of clarification, we added for children who reside in Foxborough, because there was a lot of discussion about if a Walpole team comes to Foxborough and plays, do those coaches, do they fall under different rules when they're across the town line? And we were trying to just say that we really were trying to protect Foxborough children, as well as we can, and to make that clearer so that no one would have confusion about that, because that was something else that came
Right,
up
but
at
if a
AdCom.
Foxborough football team travels to another town, this applies to
It
all
applies to
adults
their
who are
coaches
going to a
and-
Their
different
coaches,
municipality. So,
their
Right,
coaches,
right.
yep.
so it's a bit elastic from our perspective.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And that- I think that's it for that article, so
Yep.
thank you for
Any other
clarifying
questions?
that. And then the only other question that came up was with respect to Article number 2.
Thanks.
And where the Economic Development Committee is actually sponsoring this article. There's been some points made on whether or not that was appropriate for us to be doing it that way. Given the fact that the liquor licenses are actually under the control of the Board of Selectmen, the reasoning being why this was done this way was because alcohol licenses are an economic development tool. There's no question about that. But typically, the Board of Selectmen has control over licenses, and as such, should probably be the sponsor of this article.
I agree with Bill, yeah.
Absolutely. The Economic Development Committee has no policy-making authority. All it does is make recommendations and provide information.
So I think that would be the other change that we, so if the board is willing to accept these changes, I would ask that they take make a motion to accept the changes as proposed, and they be then forwarded to the advisory committee for further consideration in their process.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposed changes on Article 1 as written.
I'll second that.
And then Article 2 is in terms of sponsorship.
Didn't we have it already sponsored by us?
No, it was
No,
originally
it was
sponsored
Economic
by
Development.
Economic
Oh,
Development.
okay, I'm sorry.
Well, let's vote on that one.
Yeah, we'll do two separate motions.
Okay, fair enough.
So I seconded that first.
Discussion? There's none. All those in favor?
Right. And then I would like to make a motion that we change the sponsor of Article number 2 from the Economic Development Committee to the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Discussion? None? All those in favor?
Excuse me for 1 second, Mr. Chairman. There was two changes. The other one was the sponsorship of the Article 2, which that's been changed to the Board of Selectmen. So, you know, so were there any other changes that I could think of?
That is all I can think of. Thank you.
Okay, great. All
We'll
right,
get
thank
you
you.
the revision for tomorrow's
tomorrow.
meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank
Could
you.
you mail this to John? I'm not going to be able to make it to the meetings tomorrow, so if
Okay.
you email them to John, he'll bring them.
Sure. Great, thank you.
And do we need to sign this again?
You in the McGinty room
No,
tomorrow night?
because it's just that they amended
Yes,
the
I'm gonna-
existing, they already signed
I'll be
it,
there.
so they're all set. I think you're all set.
Couldn't make last Thursday as I was dead.
Okay. With respect to the report, I have a couple of things that I wanted to bring to the board's attention tonight. First is that I'd like to read into the record a statement with respect to Monday's decision pertaining to the Weldon Dutton case. Weldon Dutton case and versus the town of Foxborough. After a 2-week trial in the U.S. District Court before the Honorable Judge Douglas Woodlock, a jury rendered a split decision on the remaining claim against the town of Foxborough. Police Chief Edward O'Leary had been dismissed last week as a defendant from the trial. The jury ruled in favor of the town on one of the 3 plaintiffs' claims, finding no civil rights violation. On the remaining 2 plaintiffs' claims, the jury found that they had been unlawfully placed into protective custody, and this was done pursuant to a policy, practice, or custom of the town. The jury awarded one plaintiff $1 as a nominal award, and the second plaintiff $4,000. The town has always maintained the practices of the police department were lawful and constitutional and in compliance with the state-mandated training. The use of the protective custody statute at Gillette is applied to ensure the safety and well-being of persons who have become incapacitated by reasons of intoxication. The town of Foxborough and Chief O'Leary continue to strive to provide a safe environment for all visitors at Gillette and the town. The town is currently reviewing the decision to determine if an appeal should be taken, but that in light of the decision, we will evaluate our policies, practices, and procedures to determine any appropriate corrective action. And finally, while the decision rendered in this case is not what the town had hoped for, the town will continue to provide the highest level of public safety services at Gillette Stadium. Given the hundreds of thousands of spectators that attend events at the stadium each year, there are only a small fraction of individuals who require a more dedicated level of protective services. The Foxborough Police Department and the supporting departments who assist them at all stadium events do a great job given the level of responsibility they are given. Based on the results of this case, it appears that we now have further clarity about how the protective custody statute can be applied. And so it's possible we may have counseling next week to further update the board if that's necessary. But that is the current status of the case.
So will that letter, is that a letter to the editor?
It's just, it's more a statement, a public statement that I'll share with the press as well, so that they can understand what our position is at this point.
Will that be in tomorrow's reporter?
I'll have to ask him.
We'll definitely include that in, so if there's an overall story that we're taking from the Chronicle, we're definitely will be putting that statement, or portions of that statement in it. Bill's putting it together, I guess.
Can you put that statement in entirety in that, and not portions of it?
It's
possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see how much space.
All right, Bill, will we get further clarity on what this means going forward?
Sure, we're looking for that right now. In a sense, what this means effectively is that what the case came down to was the fact that the actions relating to why a person was placed into protective custody was questioned as to whether or not it was appropriate for protective custody given the incapacitation of the person. So in other words, a person may be intoxicated but may necessarily be incapacitated. And that is the standard by which a person can be placed in protective custody here in Massachusetts. So that was the basis of this case. And it was found essentially that while one person, 2 people were effectively placed into that category, where the court found otherwise, they also found the level of culpability was somewhat limited because of the fact that there was a very limited amount of damages applied in this case. So I think what we have is a clarification that we need to have a further improvement upon how we apply the law here in the community and actually across the Commonwealth, because now there's a newer standard, or a tighter standard by which that is being measured. There's been very little case law associated with this type of application, except when it comes to major criminal cases. And so now this case is actually helping to further clarify how we can apply it. So I think that's really what we're looking to do at this point is to take appropriate actions and limit and to apply the law as it was intended to, apparently by the legislative bodies.
Would it be possible to get a copy of Judge Woodlock's brief on his decision?
Sure, we can share, we can get that, yeah. Because we don't have that in front of us at this point in time, so.
I'm just curious to...
But it will be, of course, it was a jury decision, so
Right.
it was not the judge's determination, it was
Well,
ultimately the
I'm just
jury.
interested in reading the brief and see what the thought process was
Fair enough.
in the award, not only for $1, but for the $4,000 plaintiff.
Sure, absolutely. So, that is the statement relative to the case. I do have some other important news to share with you, that we did receive a new Standard & Poor's rating on our bond status this past week. As you recall, Randy Scollins, the Director of Finance, presented this board with an opportunity to refinance certain bonds based on their level of maturity and the condition of the market at this current time, which ultimately will save money to the taxpayers, which was obviously a great opportunity to do that. But during that process, S&P does a full evaluation of your bond rating every time you go to market. So we went out to that process again, and they maintained our AA+ status. But what was more interesting is that they raised our outlook to positive. And that's really significant. And while some may not know that, but the outlook before was stable. They actually increased it to positive, which means that more than likely the next step in this process would be to raise it to AAA rating. So that's been my experience in dealing with that over the past several years, and I think that's a very, very positive step for the town. And that they actually were very clear about some of the things that we needed to do, which we're fully aware of, and that was to formalize our policies. And by doing that, I think that will put us in really good stead next time we're evaluated, hopefully by next spring. So it's good news report. And then I also this past week signed the solar contract for the solar field. For that construction will beginning shortly for the Elm Street parcel. It's another significant milestone for us, and so that we'll be starting to see some of that revenue available for the next budget season. Something that Randy mentioned during his budget forecast. Also, I wanted to read for you something that was shared with me by Deb Giardino, Recreation Director. It says on Saturday, October 31st, Foxborough Recreation held its 4th annual Halloween parade. This event was open to all Foxborough families and has grown to over 300 families participating this year. The event starts at the town hall with the kids and many adults in costumes, accompanied by proud grandparents and other family members walking through our town center and trick-or-treating at open local businesses. The event is that much more exciting for the children as they are led by a fire truck, lights and whistles on as they march down the street. Firefighter and public education coordinator Greg Gill was driving the truck, as he has done for virtually every parade. Foxborough Police were at the location assigned to them to stop traffic for a duration of the parade. As I was walking ahead of the families, I noticed that cars were still coming around the common as families were crossing. The officer assigned to that position had been pulled away for an emergency and left behind an orange fence, but drivers were going around it and around the parade. Firefighter Gill, noticing this very dangerous situation, pulled his truck across the 2 lanes by Memorial Hall, allowing the kids to continue safely and the cars to use, so the cars can use South Street. Without his quick thinking and action he took, the parade could have resulted in an accident or at least a tragedy at the worst. I'm very grateful to Firefighter Gill for his actions and felt compelled to share this with you. Both Foxborough Fire and Police have always been a great partner to Foxborough Recreation, and we appreciate them very much. Firefighter Gill's actions are a direct result of his training, work ethic, and the pride he takes as being a Foxborough firefighter. And so I want to say thanks to Debbie and to the Recreation Department for sharing this information with us. Very positive. Thank you.
It's good. Thank you, Greg.
And then I also want, and of course, thank you to Greg for great work there. And then I also wanted to announce that this past week I've been working with Dave Feldman on the licensing issue, trying to get a handle on where people stand with the whole existing licenses in town to see how they feel about the current status and whether or not they intend to change their status at some point. So we did a survey. We sent it out this past week to see how people respond. We're starting to get some of the surveys back, so we'll get a better feel as to what, what the intentions are.
Yeah, that was great to see that go out. It's a good idea.
So we'll get that started. We'll see where it takes us. At least we'll get a little bit better understanding of where we stand at this point.
Yeah, the intent is just to collect information and collect data,
Right.
rather than trying to throw darts at a dartboard.
I'm hoping that this request doesn't raise expectations.
No, I actually had a couple people reach out to me with that question. I said, absolutely not. It's a survey. We're gathering information. There are no promises or anything
Again,
being made.
because, while liquor licenses are important, and we all agree they're important to economic development, we're still trying to execute a master plan.
Yep.
Correct.
And,
Right. And that's the other part of this, because, we want to make sure that all the locations are identified. We're looking at very specific areas, and we're looking at very specific opportunities. So, we got to, we're basically starting at the beginning, and we're gathering information, and then we'll take it from there.
I see it as a point to reach out to our existing businesses and say, hey, how you doing? These are our plans. How are you? Are you all set? Because, if you got an existing person that's been doing it forever, and all of a sudden somebody else opens up next door with a brand new license that this guy may have wanted.
Well, I think that's the point. I think that's a very good point, in the sense that I think a lot of existing businesses like to feel as though they've been asked,
Yeah.
and at least to know, whether or not their needs are being met as well. And I think if I agree with you, we don't want to build false expectations by asking that question, but at the same time, if we don't ask, you can also create a scenario where people are saying, hey, wait a minute, you didn't even ask the local
No, actually,
businesses.
it's going to cause a discussion for existing license holders to consider participating in the execution of the master plan.
Yeah.
So it actually could work out.
It could work out.
It was all designed to create dialogue and conversation and gather information.
Now, it is interesting, I've had one person reach out to me and express concern over the fact that, well, why should, I've been here for a long time, why should somebody else get a license? Well, that's the nature of the American dream, is that anybody can apply for a business license. I mean, the question is whether or not it makes sense for us to do that as a community, and whether it fits into our overall plan of action.
No, and as we go through the process, and I agree with them, because if I owned a license and had a business that was performing but not great, I wouldn't want the town to become super saturated with licenses such that no business does well.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. So
that's a perfectly legitimate concern.
That's the balance that we have to look for.
Yeah.
Right, and that's our job, to balance that out
That's right.
when we get to that issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you can't make that decision unless you have the information.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
So the next thing is that you saw in your packet that there was a meeting on Norfolk County Community Aggregation, electricity aggregation, which is something that I think Dave and I spoke about that issue a while ago. It looks like Norfolk County, well, actually, there are a couple of communities that have banded together to do community aggregation, and Norfolk County had a meeting just yesterday, as a matter of fact, in Dedham, where they have reached out to ask communities in Norfolk County if they wanted to band together to do this. It makes sense, obviously, because the more numbers that you have, the better potential price you can get for all your residents in the community on electricity rates. So we're looking at that. The challenge, I think, that we're going to have with that is that Norfolk isn't really all that coordinated yet, whereas other places are, and we may be able to jump onto their processes already without having to go into a new process.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that as an option, and there are groups in the southeastern Mass region that
Have any
already done it.
counties in the Commonwealth organized to the point where they're
Well,
actually executing this?
Well, Cape Cod is doing it already as a county. That all of Cape Cod did it together.
Yeah.
And they were able to get a pretty good
Barnstable
rate. Barnstable County. And then there was, but there were like 23 communities in southeastern Mass that just banded together to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it is working, I guess, pretty well.
Yeah, and basically what you're doing is you're pooling your consumption. You're going out to the commodity market and having all these suppliers bid on your consumption.
Right.
I do it with my
All the time.
buildings right
Sure.
now, and you lock in a fixed rate and you take away the seasonal spikes that the utility goes from the summer rate to the winter rate.
Correct.
You take away that fluctuation, you're actually able to get really aggressive pricing.
Yes, and The numbers that they're looking at are actually pretty significant in terms of where the prices are right now. Compared to the market, that's actually going up, ticking up pretty rapidly. So the challenge, though, is the fact that once you accept it, you have to accept the statute first, which we wouldn't be able to do that now until the annual town meeting. So once we accept it, then we probably wouldn't be able to go out to bid until, we wouldn't be able to become part of that process until January of next year. So we need to start that process now, is what I'm saying to you. And so I think I'll be back to you.
Yeah, I think we need a little bit more information, because if you join a pact like this and things don't go so well, how do you?
Well, you can always opt out.
You can?
Yeah,
Okay,
you can
all
opt
right.
out. See, the individual homeowner has the ability to opt out. Now, the way it works is that once you accept it, everybody's in. But then if you don't like it, if you can get a better rate on your own, you can always opt out. You have that option.
Okay.
So it's a pretty flexible statute in that regard.
And the interesting dynamic with electric rates, and, you know, you see the natural gas prices coming down to historic lows, but electric rates are going up and up. It's because most of the electric plants are firing on natural gas right now, and there's a bottleneck
Right.
on the Algonquin pipeline. They just can't get the gas
There's not enough capacity in the lines.
to the fuel tip.
That's right.
So, you know, without the additional pipelines, electric rates are going to continue to go up.
Which we know is controversial at this
Yep.
point to speak of. So, I just want to report to the board that I submitted the application for the community compact. That's been submitted and it's been accepted. So we're waiting to hear back from them. They did receive it, so I'm waiting to hear back from them on that. And then finally, I'll be attending the Mass Municipal Managers Fall Conference beginning tomorrow night at UMass Amherst, and I'll be presenting on Thursday on the topic of 3-member boards versus 5-member boards. So that should be very interesting.
So you're going to suggest 3-member boards are the way to go?
Yeah, I've only worked on a 5-member board, so I worked with a 5-member board, so I don't think I've ever had that experience. So other people have, but believe it or not, on a statewide level, there are more 3-member boards than there are 5 members. Not by much, but it is. I was surprised to see that myself.
Yeah, there's a lot of really small towns west of here, and I can see why.
That's right. And last but not least, Dennis Naughton, who was here earlier tonight, actually expressed interest on serving on the housing advisory committee. You've been trying to fill.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, so I'd like to suggest that we get him appointed, because he'd make a good member, I think, of that committee. So I haven't had a lot of interest in that committee, to be honest with you, but he would certainly make a good member.
Yeah, that was my question, if the committee had been finalized yet, because we talked about it in the minutes that we reviewed.
Yeah, we've been trying to get people to apply. In fact, there were a number of names put forward, but nobody actually, we followed up and nobody came back to us.
Do you have to deal with the planning board with that?
I think the board, we resulted was that this board would actually appoint the members of that committee.
Working with the planning board, though?
Well, they'd work with the planning board, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily be appointed by the planning board.
And also, we got a notice about a failure to comply with dam safety order, Carpenter Pond Dam. What's
Yeah,
our
it's something that
liability on
Public
that?
Works has been working on that project, so I've actually asked for a status update. I'm supposed to get one tomorrow from Roger on that, but he actually has been working on that project, on both projects.
Okay.
So.
What is the status update of the Leonard Street situation with the sidewalks? You got that letter in the packet?
Yeah, the present situation is that the project is I think they finished the final coat of the sidewalks this week, but I will tell you that there is more discussion to come on that front, because I've already had a discussion with Roger Hill about that. They are going to line that area too, so they're going to put a new fog line, so it should help define the sidewalk. But I'm of the opinion, I've shared this with Roger pretty openly, that I think it has to be relooked at in the spring.
It has to be.
Yeah,
That's
I just
an
didn't.
absolute embarrassment to this town.
Yeah, I don't think it.
Sidewalks.
I just don't think it's. I've actually seen that happen once before, and it just didn't work. It doesn't work.
No,
So I think we have to define it with, the challenge is, of course, is that to put in a granite curb there is expensive, and it's going to cost us money, but I think it's something we have to look at.
The property values that you ruined on, there's one house there, 2325, has an asphalt ramp now that's about that much degrees in about a 2-foot span to get to their existing walkway. They at least need to bring the grade of the asphalt all the way back up.
Yeah.
to where it was, because it's an embarrassment, and it has to get
Fixed.
Yeah.
Was that how the road was spec'd out? Or did it-
No,
I don't
what it-
think they had a spec, to
No.
tell you the truth, by looking at it.
Yeah, that was one of the projects where the sidewalk was in such difficult condition that it was concrete before, and they tried to address it by redoing it all together as one project, and it just didn't come out right. I mean, I'm of that opinion, and I share that concern as well. So I've expressed that to Roger. He said, let me at least do some additional work on it to see if I can make it work, but I've just said, I just don't know that it's going to be acceptable.
Well, you can do all you want with paint, but it's a grade issue.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a major grade issue.
Right.
And I mean, it's a property value issue. There's asphalt now that where there's a hydrant or a telephone pole, instead of staying straight and square, they swung it into the existing neighbors' yards. When I had my business, there's one house there that they spent a fortune paying me to put their lawn in, and their lawn is ruined now because of the town. So, I mean, it's a property value issue. It's like I said, it's an embarrassment. The amount of money that we get in to spend on roads and sidewalks, and that's the finished product, unacceptable.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately is the exception rather than the rule. I mean, I think there's been a lot of great work done all over town, and that unfortunately is one that's a blemish.
And that's why I think this sticks out.
Yeah,
it sticks out so much.
But I think that's
because
true.
of-
I mean, I just want to temper that comment, because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people have been very happy with a lot of the work that we've done. That's one of the areas which I think we can do a better job on.
Well, I think, go ahead.
Is that a company that we've done business with before, or
No,
did they
that was
do other roads?
that's how we designed that, and it wasn't the company's fault. It was just how we did that work. We thought maybe it would work. Apparently, they thought it would work. Now I mean, that's our department defined that, but it has worked in some areas. But this is a scenario where it's just I actually drove it and saw it myself, and I said that's not going to work.
No, it's.
I've come back with that comment, and we're going to have to address it. So. We'll take a look at it in the spring. Come up with a different.
But that would mean if we
approach.
go through a redesign, the residents of that
Well-
street would have to, endure another summer of
Well,
construction.
I'm hoping that it won't be a long duration type of thing, because the road itself was the major project, and that road was in tough shape.
Yeah.
So that required an awful lot of work to get it to that point. So the
But this
question
is really just to address the shoulder.
it's just the shoulder and the sidewalk, to see how we can address it. And I've seen that done before, and it hasn't been all that disruptive.
No, we just need to make sure that they don't start in July and finish in November.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think that exasperated the situation.
It does, it does. It does make people very frustrated when that happens. So, I mean, and that's one of the things we're going to have to do a little bit of job of mapping that kind of work out, because that's very detailed and requires a lot of time. And unfortunately, with the reliance that we have on contractors, we can't always get them back as quickly as we'd like to, and we can do some things ourselves, which we don't have we have a very limited crew to do that kind of work. So it's interesting, because we're in a situation in town where we have the ability to get it done, but we don't always have the resources to get it done, and that's the challenge we face sometimes. So I know our guys do a great job, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form belittling them, but sometimes not every solution is the right solution, and this is one where I think we have to relook at this one.
There was a question on granite curbing was done on Chestnut Street and not on Sherman Street. Is there a criteria for when you put granite in and when you don't?
Well, in that case, there was a case where there was additional resource available, because there was there was a water line put in there as well, so they were able to use some water money to help offset some of the cost of doing that. So they were able to pool money together to get that curbing in. You don't have that situation over on London Street. So there was more resources simply available for that project. But given the fact that that's probably maybe needed here, we're going to have to look at that.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be granite on Leonard and Sherman. If it was a regular asphalt berm in the grade, it's the grade issue.
Yeah.
If it was brought up to where it originally was, and a normal sized berm put in, asphalt would work.
Yeah. The question is we have to go out and look at it again and see,
Yeah.
and obviously talk to our engineer staff and see figure it out.
Okay.
We'll go look at it though. right, that's all I had.
Thanks, Bill.
I have three quick things. Just wanted to let you know that we are rounding out our 3 contracts that we were hoping to get to AdCom sooner rather than later. I think we will have news on one next week to bring to the board for the December 1st meeting. With any luck, there may be 2 that we bring to you, we're hoping. So we're trying to really move forward and continue on our progress with that. We also are opening up negotiations for 2 new contracts for the FY17 season, so that work continues. Just wanted to do a shout out for our 2 open positions that we have right now, firefighter, paramedic, and a water technician for the water department. Those close on November 20th, so if anyone's interested, the job posting is on our website. We're also going to be looking for a person to take minutes for the Economic Development Committee and also for the AdCom. So if anybody's interested, it's about a 4-hour commitment, we would think, and, you know, it's something where you have to attend the meeting, you don't work at all in town hall or anything like that, just have to have some attention to detail and ability
I
to
thought
take
there
minutes.
was somebody new in place at AdCom.
It was a trial and it didn't work out for the
okay.
person, yeah, so, so we're
Harry, you
looking.
want the job? You a Foxborough resident?
I am not a Foxborough resident.
Oh, all right.
I don't think you need to be a Foxborough.
No, you don't have to.
No,
Actually, the
no.
other lady was
Want to open up some affordable housing?
So,
Sounds like a committee.
So if anybody's interested, look for that job posting on our website tomorrow. And then finally, just wanted to thank the local YMCA Hockomock for partnering with us. We've entered into a partnership for a workplace wellness program, and as a result, they are giving all of our employees a 10% discount on membership and 50% off the joining fee. They also are offering all veterans a no joining fee for the month of November. So we're partnering with them, which we hope is at least a year-long partnership to create some wellness programs for our employees. And that was it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Done with our action items.
Yep. Make a motion, we adjourn the Board of Selectmen meeting.
At 8:57. That's a record. I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.